A dovish Powell could set stage for stocks to erase all losses by way of year-end Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is anticipated to deliver clean clues on financial policy subsequent week, and some investors trust that failure from the Fed chief to beat back in opposition to bets on a dovish pivot may want to set the level for a rally in stocks to erase losses through year-end. The S&P 500 will pass up appreciably if and when the Fed, signal a pause and maintain a rally that could recover all of the losses by means of the give-up of the year, Jimmy Lee, the founder and CEO of the Wealth Consulting Group, advised in a latest interview. The course of inflation holds sway over whether or not a Fed pause turns into truth and potentially help the wider market erase its nearly 12% loss via the stop of the year. Recent reviews have pointed to easing inside the pace of inflation that is probable to retain, according to Lee. Spending on offerings may also slow as the high pricing in tour and enjoyment industries ease after the summer, Lee says, including similarly drawback pressure on inflation. Others, but, aren't so sure and factor to the tight labor market with a purpose to boost wage pressures, even as different drivers which include high rental charges keep to gasoline inflation. I worry inflation is going to stay warm for a while, John Luke Tyner, portfolio manager at Aptus Capital Advisors, instructed on Thursday. With 5% or 6% wage increase and perhaps 6% boom in owners' equal rent as well as the alternative condominium numbers that tack onto CPI, I suppose it's going to be enormously tough for the Fed to get inflation backpedal to 2%, Tyner added. Fed speak muddies rate hike debate. The recent messaging from Fed contributors hasn't helped remedy expectations on whether or not the valuable financial institution is thinking about a pivot in policy. Some members of the Fed look like pushing for the primary bank to supply some other 75 basis point rate hike subsequent month, while others are striking a greater cautious tone. St. Louis Fed President James Bullard on Thursday backed the idea of some other 75 basis point price hike to take the Fed price range fees to a level so as to put vast downward strain on inflation. Kansas City Fed President Esther George, however, appeared cautious on large hikes, announcing the relevant bank should be very aware of the lagged effect of its coverage selections at the economic system. The minutes of Fed's July meeting, released in advance this week, weren't conclusive and contained their common something for every person, National Bank Australia stated in a current research notice. The cutting-edge odds are slightly skewed towards a 0.75% charge hike at the September meeting, in line with Fed Price Monitor tool. The Fed finances fee is anticipated to peak at 3.67% in March 2023, with about 40 foundation factor of cuts, thereafter, in 2023. Powell to stick or twist? But Powell can reset marketplace expectancies on a Fed pivot when he supplies a speech next week at the annual Jackson Hole Symposium on August 25-27. The Fed chief's feedback will be intently watched for clues on whether or not the slowing inside the financial system is beginning to dilute the Fed's clear up to hold the front-loading price hikes that some argue are had to convey down inflation. Beyond price hikes, Powell may also turn awareness to the Fed's balance sheet discount, or quantitative tightening, plan that would be makes use of as greater of impactful lever to tighten conditions in preference to persevering with to raise rates at the cutting-edge pace, Tyner brought. If the Fed chief, doesn't keep off sufficiently against the growing narrative of a Fed pivot, it dangers higher for longer inflation that could spark a surge in long-end Treasury yields and placed rate-sensitive sectors of the market together with tech returned in the crosshairs. If the Fed pivots earlier than inflation is constant, I suppose which you see a massive rise in long-term bond yields. That's what scares me far from this peak yield narrative, Tyner stated.